Video. I did a lot with the arts in this, so I need you to have your paper and pens if possible to watch this one. Maybe sometime you can watch it 2 or 3 times to get more acquainted with the arts that's going to be used, okay? This is entitled, Are You Ready to Be Delivered? 10 years we're going to be talking about in this. Are you ready to be delivered? 2024 to 2042. Are you ready to be delivered? Now, and the top of this is going to be 10 years, $800 billion collected by the black church. 10 years, 800, you can Google this now, Google this so you can see it yourself, so to talk about it. How much the black church done brought in within 10 years. It should bring it up and show you what the black church brought in. Not somebody else's churches, the black church. See, a lot of times you got to understand what's going on. Because the black church say we taking tithes and we taking offerings for the Lord. Okay? So that should be done to help the Lord's people, all the people. Now also, individuals of these non-profit organizations like the Urban League, the NAACP, and some of the other organizations who running when an accident happened, with Black Lives or stuff like that, they running and help collect and try to get you to donate to them, to put funds, and then all of them. You got all that collection coming up and supposed to be for your benefit. Okay, now you got to be open-minded to this. I'm not just striking that one group. And you got those individuals who take money and send it everywhere else to the Red Cross. You know, like Oprah Winfrey and all that, and billions of dollars that way, but not putting it toward their own people. And building schools here and there, not putting it toward their own people. So it's a lot of money that comes into the black community, that comes from the black community, that is not doing the will of God. And we got to look at that. We got to look at that. I'm not saying that other organizations should do this and that for their people, but I'm talking about these black folks right now. Them ones that supposed to be the chosen of the chosen. We need to get on board to find out what's really going on. We need to follow the money trail. We need to know what's going on, because if you're going to be delivered, you can't wait for reparation from the white man when you got plenty of money going on yourself to get the lobbyists and get the banks and everything, so it'll be more easy for you to get the money that they owe you and get the land that they owe you. So you can't get nowhere because you got all these boule and all these other Negroes got their own vision of things, or the Eurocentric done impacted their mind that they seeing stuff the Eurocentric way instead of seeing stuff the black nation way, or the nation way, or the peoples of color way, or the whatever you want to call them, Hebrew peoples of color from this nation way. You got to see that. The Africans got their thing to do over there, but we got to get our act together so we can help them later after we done got our act partially together. So people talking about Africa this and Africa got this, and America got it too. America got a lot more. America is the nation right now. Until God take it down, America is the nation. So who I want to emulate after? I want to emulate after somebody else. I want to emulate after myself and get my own act together, because the kingdom have to be built here. So who gonna build the kingdom if you ain't gonna step up and you supposed to be the elect? Now let's look at it rightly now. Are you ready to be delivered? Let's go with Joel 2:23. And it shall come to pass, thought. Okay, now we know the black church and the church in general is not talking about thought. They're talking about Caesar Borgia or the Pope's son and all this other stuff. That they're Jesus. They're not talking about thought. Okay, but he's writing the Bible. The sacred order know that he's in the Bible, and the sacred order know that thought is there, but the mass of the church people ain't got no idea, no inkling of what's going on. And you cannot be delivered unless you can translate the Bible right. They told you 30 years ago, this Bible was in code. Listen to what I say. About 30 years ago, they told you the Bible was in code. Now you need to hear what that is saying. The Bible is in code. Why are you still trying to literally study this book when they told you the Bible was in code? Think about what I'm saying now, because you want to be delivered, you got to know what the book is really saying. Because you can't literally read no book and don't know nothing about Peshed, Ramus, Drush, the layers of the sod, hermeneutic. If you don't know that Hebrew typology, if you don't know that, and you're not using these arts, this knowledge in order to translate it, you are leading our people down a dead-end road into the abyss. And you got to know this now, my people. This is not the time to be playing around, playing church, and talking about church as usual. I don't care what that Negro say. I'm going to my church and I'm going to jump and shout and praise the Lord. You can praise all you want, but what Lord do you think you praising right now? When God sends you a messenger and you're doing opposition what the messenger tell you to do, then what Lord do you think you praising right now? He said the whole world was going to follow after the beast. After the dragon. What you think you've been following after? You think you've been following after God, the Almighty, when He done told you in Revelation what you're going to follow after? You think that don't include you? Come on now. I love my brothers and sisters. I love you. But it's time to wake up now. It's time to know what thus say the Lord now. This is that time. Let's follow this now. And it shall come to pass, whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. It says, who shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Now this in Job. Now listen to it carefully now. For in Mount Zion, what is Mount Zion? The mind of Lewis. In Mount Zion, in that pineal gland, the one that he done son to do his work, and in Jerusalem, that's his full name there, shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. Now, he's telling you how you're going to get your deliverance. Now, you can't overlook the person that he done sent for you to get your deliverance from. You use those same scriptures and you look at Acts, it tell you about the same words, then it say save. It don't say deliver. Then on down the line, you see the European done put Jesus in there. Okay? And you, I ain't your father. Your father didn't come up with that. That's Eurocentric. Your father ain't told you nothing about no Jesus from 2,000 years ago. That's Eurocentric. But you don't want to go back to the fathers, and he told you that your hearts will go back into the fathers, and the fathers to the son. You got to change this, my people. You got to look at what's been taught to you long ago, so you'll know what you need to know now. Because in between then and now, the Eurocentric done put his narrative there, and then he came to America with the sword and forced you to accept that narrative that he got there. And that narrative need to be changed. You need to see the truth is. Now let's go on now. Let's go on with this. John 10:27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So if you're going to do what's right, and you're supposed to be that remnant who the Lord shall call, who's supposed to help deliver the peoples as the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. And you're supposed to be those one, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Then if you're supposed to be that group of people, you got to get your act together right now. You got to get your act together right now. You can't be following that old way that they done told you. Really. That human sacrifice person, the Eurocentric. No, this ain't come from the esteems or none of the ones before. This was the Eurocentric, the ones who wanted to fight against the Hebrews. Them ones that wanted to fight against them, they came and penetrated and infiltrated their own philosophy. And you think some Bettermans or somebody on them little regular people wrote that. No. Those scholars wrote that. And they made you think some people, some fishermen and some other stuff and all this other stuff, right? No. You had the Alexanders, the Flavors, the Herolds, the Vandals, you had different peoples writing this. You had different families writing this. If you look back, the first churches, cathedrals and churches were built, they were built named after certain family members of the aristocrats. Come on now, you got to start doing your homework. Prove me wrong. You got to study now. You can't just take this book and just start from the first chapter of Genesis and go to Revelation and you don't know nothing about this book, how it came about, who was the 54 men that King James used, those alchemists and all this other stuff, and when the Bible did this and when the Bible did this and how this came about and what happened back then. No, you got to come on now. You got to go into this thing and study what's going on. And when did they started the Jesus thing and what was the decision made at the Council of Nicaea for this to happen? And how did Constantine force this thing into being? And who was opposition against that? And all this other stuff? Come on. You talk about you want to know the Bible and you just literally reading it and you reading it and you picking up, you grabbing hold to the spell of it. King James had the arts. King James, read about the other book that King James wrote too. Why he wrote this other book to deal with demons and all this other stuff? Why do you think he put that there? Because he was showing you two sides of it. He was showing you the Hermetic principles and the thing about the Hermetica, and he was showing you things, how Hermes play a part in the Renaissance time and all that. Gnosis and all that. You got to know about this stuff. So you got to get on the organization of people that teaches this way. You can't just read the Bible no more, people. That ain't going to get it. You putting spells on yourself. And your congregation, you know, yes, they done got them a preacher that's from different universities, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Morehouse, Brown, all the other colleges. But these brothers, they ain't taught them no arts. See, you got to remember, the arts is part of the sacred order. The arts is a part of the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and some of them other boys up there that you don't know nothing about because they ain't gonna expose themselves. See, that's where the arts went at. See, the Egyptians had the arts and stuff, and they had certain things, you know, the Freemasons and all that tried to copy off them. Came this thing from them. Knight Templars come from them. Your people, your ancestors, thought the one brought this writing about so you could have it through his different initiates. And you got to see this stuff. Because when you read that Bible, you got to translate it properly. You got to know what you're looking at. And you're not going to know what you're looking at unless this is open. This is open. All the ones at the top know that. They know that. The one that really come teaching his Bible have to have that pineal gland open. He got to be able to open the cassette records. You got to know this stuff, and you trying to get around that, and it ain't no way around it. You're going to be reincarnated again and again. You keep fooling with this nonsense, and that's not what God wants. He wants you to have eternal life. He wants you to say, "Death, where's thy sting? Grave, where's thy victory?" He wants you to move up into the source, the light. And you can't get there in that heavenly realm thinking third and fourth dimension, or learning from a third and fourth dimensional teacher. You're not going to learn it, people. The heavenly realm is the fifth and higher, not third and fourth. Okay? And right now, you literally reading it, you down in the third. Come on, you got to know this. You can't come with fancy words. Your preacher can't come with fancy words and words you can't hardly understand what he's saying and don't explain the truthism. So you got a lot of them go to universities, and not only for divinity and all that, you got them for business. They go and they'll learn certain words, and really, you'll think, wow, he got to be smart. He got to know that. And you can find somebody who ain't got some of the old men ain't got a 10th grade or 8th grade education. And they in business. But they are multi-millionaire. How he get to be a multi-millionaire? And this one finished college and he working for somebody ain't making but $150,000 a year. And this man making million. How is that? Because you got to understand the language. See, they'll switch the language and make you think something else. And there's certain things is supply and demand. Certain things is about target market. Certain things is about all this other stuff, and you got to know what it is. And when you put it in a name term, it ain't. You got a market open for sell your product. You ain't got the market open for, don't worry about selling your product. Change your product to another product if you need be, but keep your thing going in and out. But you got to know that. I grew up with some old men that did not have a high educational level, but they was like rich, millionaires and multi-millionaires, because they knew how to move their product. They knew how to sell stuff and make things go. And they had that burning desire. Okay? That burning desire. And you got to see this. Let's move on now. Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of these days. You got to know what it's talking about now. Immediately after the tribulation of these. What's the tribulation of these days? The tribulation of these days is the 400 years. The 400 years that from the time that they brought their little butt here and sought up their little nation, as they say, or their political body in Jamestown, Virginia, and August the 1st, 1619, they passed a law to punish indentured servants / slaves. Okay, this is when that 400 years started. You got to know the time that things start. You can't just know that it's in the Bible. I heard people many times talking about, well, it started in the 1500s and this and that and that. When they first brought slaves, no. You got to study this thing. You can't just read this stuff. You got to study it. And August the 1st, 1619, when the 400 years started, when that time started. So you got in Genesis 15:13, and it shall and shall serve them. Show you shall serve them, and they shall afflict them. It didn't say slavery or this and that. He said afflict. Afflict, you got slavery and all Jim Crow and everything under this word afflict. And they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay, and that's from August 1st, 1619 to October 3rd, 2013. You're dealing with 360 days a year, so you're talking about 400 years, that's 144,000 days. Now you got to know what this 144,000 is about, because over here we're going to talk about the 144,000 days. You're going to see this in days and you're going to see this otherwise, but we're going to deal with what it's talking about. 144,000 days give you 400 years or 360 days a year. Now, Matthew 24:29, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Okay, you're talking about now, after the 400 years, which end in October the 3rd of 2013, immediately after that, you should see things that deal with the blood moon. What happened in the blood moon and the solar eclipse that happened on Jewish holidays? That happened in 2014 and 2015. So you're talking about in 2013, October the 30th, 2013, that end that 400 years, and after then, you got the blood moon and the solar eclipse in 14 and 15. Okay? Now, Matthew 24:29. And the sun shall fall from heaven. Okay? And the stars shall fall from heaven. Okay, now when you're dealing with that, I'm going to cover it over on the next chart, but we're going to get into that. So we're going to talk about this people right now, then we'll get into this other part. Alkin El Bay. I want to also talk about, before I go any further, Kevin and Queen Tana Church. Okay, I like y'all to get in touch with me because I ain't heard from you for a little while, and anytime I'm laying in my bed and going to sleep, and then before I can go to sleep, somebody on my mind like that, then I got to just say, hey, look, y'all get in touch with me. Y'all call me and just say hello, I'm all right, or et cetera, et cetera. I need to know what's going on with you. Anytime I start thinking about someone that much, then I'm going to bring you out and say something, because I believe you're real good people, and I want to know what's going on, because I haven't heard from you in a lot of months now. Okay, but I love you. Kevin, and I think I'm calling her name Queen Tana. Okay, if I don't, I'll get it right. I've been practicing with that name. Okay, now also you got Elkanel Bay, you got Maurice Holness, you got Desmond Wheeler, you got Stephen Thomas Sr., you got Buse White, you got Antoinette McMillan, you got Robert Cromwell and his wife, you got Tamiria C. Fennell, you got St. Clair, Amelia St. Clair, also Marcia Gordon, you got Leon James, and you got Eldrin Janira, okay, and many others. Now, we're going to go over here. Deuteronomy 4:20. But the Lord have took you forth out of the iron. Now, this is taken off from where I stopped at right here. And where I stopped at in Matthew is 24:29. And the stars shall fall from heaven. Now, you got to understand this. Now, most people say, well, the stars shall fall from heaven. Now, this is Matthew. So this is immediately after those days. So he's showing you something. He's showing you something. So you got to know this fall in line with this other stuff that they talk about, the blood, moon, etc. Now you got to know. Now, when you see the stars, it ain't always talking about the elements in the sky like they talk about the blood moon. Now you got to see that. Okay. Now we're going to bring that star about so you'll know what's going on. In Deuteronomy 4:20, but the Lord have taken you forth out of the iron furnace. Okay. Now, out of the iron furnace. Now, when you see the stars come down, you always see what they call these star shooting stars. You always see meteors and all that. You always see this light or this friction happening. Okay. Now, it's a burning happening and stuff like that. Now, what you got here is 4:20, but the Lord have taken you forth out of the iron furnace, out of the iron furnace. Now, what is he talking about? He's talking about elements in the sky, but he's talking about what affect you in heaven, affect you on earth. So you're talking about as above, so below. So you're talking about what is happening in the life of these people. What is happening? Now, at this time, you're talking about a paradigm shift. You're talking about a paradigm shift. And in the paradigm shift in the arts, you see it from the heavens and you see it from the earth. Okay? Now, even out of Egypt, so that letting you know that it's something that's dealing with the people. Even out of Egypt, which is America. Now, you're going to see this time from 2000 to 2042. To be into him a people. Now, not to be unto him now. It's to be into him a people. So that means you got to begin to know God the right way. You can't know him the way that you have learned him in the past, in the Eurocentric way, by saying that's Eurocentric Jesus hanging on the cross for the sins of the world. No, no, no. That's what caused the fall. You at the time when you got to make this transition. See, at the time when you was going through the affliction, certain things were in the dark age, certain things was just overlooked because you was in the dark age. And that's why I say you could ask God at the time when you was in the dark age, why are you letting this happen to us, Lord? Why is this and that? Why are you letting these people afflict us and stuff like that? But you're in the age of light now. You coming in this paradigm shift now. God have to give you reasons why this happened and that happened. And that's what this messenger is doing, to deliver you from that condition, that state of mind that the Eurocentric had put you into. Now, this is not saying all Eurocentric is this and that, but what you got to know that the papal bull and the doctrine of discovery came from the Eurocentric environment.
We, therefore, waiting, all in singular, the premises with due meditation, and noting that since we had formerly by other letters of ours granted, among other things, free and ample faculty to the aforesaid King Alfonso, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ wheresoever placed, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods, whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, to convert them to his and their use and profit. From the Bull Romanus Pontifex, issued by Pope Nicholas V, January 8, 1455.
They the one that used that and came over here and took your land. And you'll see me talk about that beast in Revelation on the ending of this lecture. And you're going to see that. So you got to know what was going on, okay? You'll be a people, him a people, inherited as ye are this day, okay? So you are to inherit this land, and this book was sent to America, so this is about America. So this inheritance is about you, or people who are to inherit. You are to inherit this day. That means that you are at the time when this transition This paradigm shift is happening. Now, a question's got to be answered. Why this happening? Why that happening? Why you didn't do this before now, Lord? And You got to know all these things, and he got answers for you. That's why he sent you a deliverer, so you could get those answers. Okay? And that deliverer is to tell you that, look, you walk in the Lord right because you already saved. You came here. This earth was a school for you to learn. Okay? Now, you got to know who you are, what you are, and how you need to move forward. Okay? So you got to be delivered from certain things. Okay? Now, because the veil have been put over your head, over your life. So God want to remove the veil so you can see the truthism that you need to know. Now, we're going to get into this because it deals with numbering the stars. I want to show you how the stars are numbered because he tell you about the 400 years of affliction. And you'll see that in Genesis 15. But you got to see the other aspect of numbering the stars. And I'm going to show you other things than what I have showed you in time past. You got to understand even what the 144,000 that are following the Lamb, etc., what that's all about. You need to know all these things about the stars. You need to know about the Jubilees that no one talk about or teach you about it. I haven't even brought them up to your attention until this time, this lecture here, dealing with the Jubilees, and you're going to see the Jubilees. I talk about the Jubilees and how Trump came at the Jubilee time, 17 and 18, but I did not go and show you how the numbering of the Jubilees on the star count. You need to see all that. Now, we're going to deal with the 400 years, from 1619 to 2013, October 3rd, 2013. The things you need to see is this, okay? In 1619, they passed a law, August 1st, 1619, to punish indentured servant / slave in Virginia in a church at the assembly to establish this. This is the first law that was establishing to work toward a nation on this continent, a Eurocentric nation on this continent. Now, at that time, you had that. Then you're going to look at every Jubilee. Every Jubilee. See, they start their Jubilees, not like the Jewish Jubilee. They start their Jubilee at the time when they started this because they're working the craft now. They're doing the craft. And by doing it a certain way, they can have dominion of power over you. And you got to understand how this thing works. They are working these arts, these crafts. And it tell you in Daniel about they will work the craft and they will throw the truth to the ground. And this is what it's all about. Now, after that, 50 years later, you got, and you're dealing with a Jubilee, and some Jubilees are 49, and others, Jubilee years 49, Jubilee is 50. So you got to keep that in remembrance as I go through this. Now, the 50 years later, 49, 50 years later, you had what they call in 1669, the Casual Killing Act. Now, what they were doing in between this time, you had Nathan Bacon come on the scene, etc., and they wanted to try to get some of the people that lived in America, other than the Eurocentric, the ones who they had the land already, so they wanted to get some of the white settlers wanted to get with those black people who own this land. They wanted to get with them and start doing business with them, etc. But the Eurocentric royals didn't want that, so they sent back over from Europe back here and told them, say, look, call the whites into their environment and say, look, we're white people. That's where white people came from at this time in America. Now, you got to see that. The European, and over there, going to call themselves white people. That started in America, and that stemmed from one of the scholars that was in the area of the Mediterranean. He's seen how beautiful those people was over there. And he's saying that these white people live over here because he called them white because they were beautiful. So the word white didn't come up because of your skin tone. It was because of what you look like. And in that area of the Mediterranean, at that time, you had some people with different kind of skin tone. And you have to know that. Now, so what they did, they started calling the Eurocentric American white. Okay? And then today they call them, you ain't got to be Eurocentric. You be whatever, Arabic, etc. You can be a black Arab and they ain't going to call you white. They ain't going to call you, they ain't going to call you black, they'll call you white. Boy, you'd be surprised, but we ain't going to go into that part right now. After the Casual Killing Act, you had in 1718, you had the French Slave Acts. Okay, because French was fighting with the peoples in the area below adults, etc., and they took these Indians, these natives, and they enslaved them. They killed off the adults, etc., and they enslaved them. People think, well, no, they brought these slaves all the way from Africa. No. They brought these slaves from areas of Jamaica, areas of Barbados, etc., and the ones that was that they captured as prisoner of war, them sons and them daughters and maidens, and they turned them into slaves, servitude. Okay, and you got to know that, because see, a lot of people, they get into that history that the Eurocentric done fed them, because they want them to know that this is their land, and they get in that little school history they give them, that lie that they give them, and they run with that and think that's the reality. They get that narrative that's been falsely fed to them, and they think that's reality. Come on and do your homework. Okay, do your homework. Now, after that, you had 1767, you had the Thompson Act. Now, you had the Thompson Act because what happened where they had to raise sales tea, and after then you hear them talk about the Boston Tea Party, all that other stuff, and they have them dressed like Indians, etc. Try to put it on the Indians. But what happened at the Thompson Act? The Thompson Act was because them Indians was going back getting their children from them plantation and them farm areas. And so by them going, taking their kids back and stuff like that, then you had the military, you had the British, and the British was guarding them all at that time, because America hadn't became what it was in 1776 yet. So you had them raising money, and America didn't want to pay taxes to Britain no way. You had them raising money and putting these taxes on, tariff taxes on there, so they could have the money to pay their officers and pay their military men to go and keep these plantations from being raided and all this other stuff, and keep these Indians, as you call Indians, but they was Hebrew Americans, they were Negroes, from going in there and getting their kids back. People say, well, they ain't come, why did the African didn't come? Because they wasn't African children, they wasn't African people, they was peoples from here. And they did go back and try to get their people out of slavery and stuff like that many times. That's why you always had Indian wars, as they call them, Indian wars. Okay, so you need to know this stuff. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on with this. Then 1816, you had American, the Colonized Society. Okay, now what was that all about? See, in the American Colonized Society, most people think, oh man, they wanted to help black folks. You ain't had now Eurocentric organization wanted to really truly help black people. There always was a catch behind it. Now, what was the catch? See, they knew black folks had some choice land, etc., etc. And they tried to make it think like they wanted them. They wanted to send them to the Amazon. Lincoln one time wanted to help send them to the Amazon, different places. But they wanted to get that land from them black folks. So they wanted to get them, let's get them out of here. Let's get them anywhere. You know, you get people out of there and they got 1,000 acres of land, 150 acres of land, 500 acres of land, 20,000 acres of land, different family members. Oh no, you want to get them out of there so you can get that land. So you telling them, oh no, but they didn't want to go, but they wanted to get them out of there and get them somewhere other than that. Okay, now after the Colonization Act, let's deal with it now. After the American Colonization Society, then you had in between that. Now, before we get to 1865, I want to show you something. In between that, people would be talking about, oh well, they did this and did that. No, they found gold in Georgia in 1823. Something like that. Yeah, 1823 in that area. They found gold in Georgia. And also you had a European was rushing down there. That was the first gold rush in Georgia. So what happened even after then? You had Andrew Jackson, them Indians that still was on that land, dominating their land. You had Cherokees, Creek, and some of the other Indians down there in Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and stuff like that. Andrew Jackson said, hey, wait, I'm coming to take that land. Okay, so they took that fertile land from those peoples of color. They took that land, and they was known as Indians then. They took that land and pushed them on the west side of the Mississippi River. See, you got to study about this stuff, because they ain't telling you the truth. And they keep telling you, well, we had Indian wars and Indians. Yeah, the Indians was the Negroes. Won't you tell what it was? Because later on, they passed laws in Virginia that black folks or native peoples of this land, or aboriginal, whatever you want to call them, they couldn't call themselves Indians. They had to call themselves peoples of color, color folks. Okay? So evidently right there, they got on the records where they had them switch from Indians to colored folks. And they couldn't call themselves what they was. And they had a law where you go to prison if you call yourself Indian. Other than that, and you got to see this stuff. And people are not talking about this. They lying to you, and they want to overlook it because the school system, the Rockefellers, and the other ones, Morgans and Rockefellers, who took over the school system and paid that money to be able to take over the school system, who said we don't want no thinkers, we want workers, they got you totally out of the loop with knowing the truthism. They got you knowing exactly what they wanted you to know and got you totally away from it all because they wanted to dominate and control the land freely, and they didn't want no opposition to that. And you got to see that. Let's go on now. You had, and after that, in 1865, you had the 13th Amendment. What the 13th Amendment was about? The abolition of slavery. In other words, abolish slavery. And that happened in 1865. So you got to see that. That was during the time of the Civil War, the ending of the Civil War. You need to know all this stuff. Then in 1815, you had this Great Migration. What was the Great Migration was about? You had World War I at that time, and you had many of the blacks had left the area of Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and all them different places. They left and they started migrating to the South. Why did they migrate to the South? Because in World War I, you had over 3 million whites went off the war to fight in World War I. So you had a labor shortage. So them blacks said, hey, let's get away from this Jim Crow laws and this boll weevil and these floods down south. And they headed up north. And that's how you got what they call the Harlem Renaissance. It was not a lot of people living, and the blacks living in the north at that time. And this is what started getting a lot of blacks up there in the north. And later on, it went from the Harlem Renaissance time to, as time went on, you start having black ghettos, okay, and etc. But you had a lot of blacks moving to the north and later to the west. And also you didn't just have black ghettos, you had Jewish ghettos too now. So you got to know how it was at that time of human history. So let's go on from that. Now, after that, in 1964, you had the civil rights. Now you see how these things just move on, and you get, that's what it is. They were using the arts on you, and they knew how to keep you in line. So you got to know. And right now, the Masonic orders, those ones are the Masonic order, and the Shriners and the other ones, and the you got the other individuals, Bones and Skull, and some of the other ones, Trilateral Commission, and all the other people. They the one running your land, running your nation. They don't want you to know the truth. They want to be able to control things without you knowing what's going on. They want to keep you ignorant to what's really going down. But you got to remember something. If God says something, then the universe got to act to what God said. Now you're in that paradigm shift, and what the thing I said about the stars, okay, and to say, and the and here it say, and the stars shall fall from heaven, okay, and the stars shall fall from heaven. You need to see that because it's tying into this. This is showing you how they have caused a problem for you, and now you can't be the people that you couldn't be with people that God wants you to be. So yes, you could ask that question: why, God? Why do you let this happen to me, a person of color? Why when I go to get a job and they won't give me the job like they should, and I'm fully qualified? Because you was far coming out of the dark age, and in the dark age, that's the age that Satan and the devil rule. So if you being a child of light, the devil is not gonna release his pressure on you. He wasn't gonna release no pressure on you. So you might well understand. That's why you need to work toward nationalism. Even before you get the land back, you need to work as the people back together. Unify yourself with unity and integrity. You got to do this. Because you done failed from where you was, and God want to deliver you, raise you out of this condition. I say, but the Lord have taken you forth out of the iron furnace. Okay? Out of the iron furnace. Okay? He's taking you out of this condition, people. Out of the iron furnace. Okay? Even out of Egypt. Now he's telling you about the iron furnace. Even out of Egypt. What is Egypt? Talking about America. Even out of Egypt. To be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. And see, the only time you're going to understand who he's talking about, what he's talking about, is when the messenger, deliverer, comes to deliver you from that condition, tell you why this and why that. And you got to say, that's why he say, this day. This is the time for you to come out of that condition. This is the time that God done turned the universe against the events that's happening that been keeping you from being able to prosper the way that you're supposed to prosper. I'm going to tell you like this, because I'm real. People, hell or high water, and I don't believe in no hell because that's something the Catholic invented. But you got to know that this is that time. God is delivering you. God is finna bring you not only physically, he's finna bring you to the knowledge. See, you see these chaotic things happening around the world, and they talk about, well, they don't want but so many peoples on the planet, and this world form and all that, and they telling you this, and they telling you how these people done put stuff in your food, and they targeting Negroes and kill off so many Negroes, etc., etc. Yeah, they could do that if God wasn't in the mix. But this is not their time anymore. They just running off at the mouth. And don't get me wrong, they're going to keep doing what they're doing until the end to let you know, oh, we're going to give you more in COVID next time. We're going to do this and that. No. And they still did that, but you ain't killed no lot of black folks in the midst of that. Okay? But you trying to get rid of them, but God got a deliverance from them, and ain't no way in the hell you going to stop God's perfect will. It's their time now. It's that day now. And you got to see that. I love it now. You got to see what's going on now, because it's very important. Now, in the arts, as they don't work this year, now as above, so below, what is going to happen? Now, you're dealing with from 2013. Now, you're dealing with 2013. 2013, that's supposed to end that, and you're supposed to, after 2013, gradually come out with great substance. And you're supposed to be able to live at a good old age, okay? Which you haven't, because most of our males, some of them be dead before they get to be 80 years old. And some of our females, they be dead shortly after. You know, you ain't got a lot of people living 94, like my mother, she lived 94, but there ain't no lot of people, our people living that age now. I know a lot of people dead in their 50s and etc. So you got to understand that. But God said you're going to live at a good old age. And this, as above, so below, as Taurus time, Pisces time, you're supposed to be living 120 years or more. But no. They put stuff in your food and all this other stuff to keep you, and in your air to keep you from being who you're supposed to be. And you got to know that. Let's move on with this now, because I got to cover this other part. Now, in 2013, you got to know what's going on. So your deliverance coming in that time. Not on 2013, that's when affliction is supposed to be in it. But your deliverance coming from where the word has said at Job time, where they tell you in 2000, because in 2013, you got to know at the end of their thing, in 2013, it started, they put on you right here. Because I put right here, you got me separating the stars. This is about this star, and this is about the new star. It's about this star. So you got me with two lines in there so you can see this activities. As above, so below. As below, so above. This activity that happened between 1865 and 1865 and 1816. This activity here, closer to 1865, it's got a reactment up here. This is how it works. And you got to know that. So what's going to happen? Okay, you're going to have a civil war. You have a civil war starting down there before 1865. You're going to have a civil war up here. You have an insurrection, not an insurrection. It was like an insurrection, but you had states moving from other states and stuff like that. and being separated from the north and all that. You had that there, you're going to have it up here. Now, let's look at it, okay? Now, you got stuff almost bringing about a civil war already. And we tell you in the scripture that it talk about a civil war by next year. Start a civil war by next year. And you can see it boiling up right now. Man, if Trump don't get in that White House and he's so full-headed and they pull a game, we're going to have a civil war and stuff like that. And remember, Trump ain't but one person. Who is behind all this? Who is behind all this? See, we always look at the front guy. He ain't the man. He ain't gonna be there for so many years. He gone. So what's really behind this? Who is pulling the string? What the deep state is really about? Who is the families that are controlling this deep state thing, et cetera, et cetera? So you got to learn that, because these politicians ain't here but so long. Although Trump is talked about in the Bible, but yet you got to understand how these strings are being pulled. And you'll know that. Now, what's going to happen, because the art show that you had a civil war and you had wars against the Spanish and et cetera, the area of Mexico and all that, California. You're going to have the same stuff here. What you got going on in the area of Texas and Mexico right now, you have border wars, okay? You're going to have a conflict come between the United States government and the state government. And also what you have where they're talking about Texas being a free state, meaning being its own nation now, a nation state now. And you got that, and you can see this stuff because this is what's going on now. And a lot of other things going to happen, like from here to there, going to be transferred up to there. And you need to see this, because this America is in a judgment. It's in a 42-year judgment. And you got to see what's going on. 21 of the years done happened from 2000 to 2020. Okay, and the last bad thing that happened in that part was the COVID. Before then, you had a recession. Before that, you had Katrina, you had Harvey, and all the other things was happening at that time. Now, after then, you got the time to deal with the vehement east wind from 21. And let's go over this so you can see it, so you can know what's happening. From 2000 to 2040, you're going to deal with American judgment. Okay, now it's broke out down in different ways. From 2021 to 2027, you're going to deal with a war, vehement east wind, a war. From 2028 to 2042, exodus. You got to see that. And in this 2021 to 2027, not only going to be a war, but you're going to have a civil war. You're going to have a world war and a civil war at that time. Okay, and you'll see me talk about it here from 2024 to 2027 is the Civil War and the World War. Now watch what I'm saying now, because 24 is a good year, but 25 and 26 are the bad and the grievous bad year to deal with Civil War and World War. So you can see it's already brewing up now. Then the reputation concession. You're going to see in the territory, you're going to see this here, you're going to see this breaking off. And right now, you notice in the air, they talk about the border war and things like that, and it happened to be in a certain part of Texas. Now, you could go to other areas of the border and where they got these gates wide open. So why, if anybody with common sense could go to the other areas and go right cross there without any border guards or anything. And I was saying that how they had the other areas wide open. But why is the conflict all happening in Texas? Because Texas is tired of the mess. Texas is tired of what American leadership is doing, what the deep state and all the other ones doing, and they want out. And Texas, Texas always been at that point where I'm tired of y'all behind anyway. So Texas won't out, and even Russia has been talking about helping Texas get its paperwork and get things right and back them, because you need a big country outside to back them, like America had Morocco at the time to establish them as who they was. So you need somebody like Russia to back you, and that's what's going on right now. Most people, they just don't know this because the fake news or the news that is controlled by these corporations ain't telling you that. So if you don't go on the internet and watch the other news or get a chance to watch world news from a different perspective, you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know what's happening. All you know is a convoy Christian people's trucks going over to Texas. You're not seeing the bigger picture. You need to see the whole picture, not just one side of it, and know that the reason why things are like it is because of the timing. They know the timing, you got to understand the timing. Let's move on with this. Now, before I go on to Revelation 13, 14, I want to show you something. Now, you got to see how the true, now they have their own laws, their own thing in the numbering of the stars, and they did not go along with the one with the 50-year jubilee that the Lord established for the Jews to obey, etc. And what happened was that if you go back and study the Jubilee time and study the black Jew or the black Hebrew in America, you can see how at different times automatically these events was happening. And you'll know that because back in the first one of the Jubilees back in 1816, you studied about the Jewish Jubilee, you had an event happen. What was that event happening? It brought forth that particular leader. And it was Bishop Richard Allen in the AME Church. And what did he do? Bishop Richard Allen was bringing Christianity to the black community in more free way, but Bishop Allen, the Eurocentric helped sort that up. Okay? So you got to know, and all our leaders of the past, the Eurocentric have something to do with, underhanding have something to do with them bringing themselves to you, but they, it's like they see a bright light in this black person, and they know certain things should be happening at certain times, and they'll embrace them, and they'll bring them forth to you. And you'll think, whoa, that's God, because you got to remember, these things were still happening in the dark age. This is still part of the dark age. That's why I separate the dark age from the light age. This is one Jubilee that deals with this area over here, and this other Jubilee deal with this one over here. So I want you to meet other star count deal with this one over here. So I want you to see the difference. That's why I got the two lines in the middle to separate the old world from the new world. Okay. Now, the dark age from the light age. Now, after him, you had Frederick Douglass in 1867. He was the most influential black man in American history, but you always know that these guys had some Eurocentric connection. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't you couldn't do things. Really, in reality, you couldn't do very much no way at that time because you're still in the dark age. So if you're going to get anything done, you had to work with the white man. Okay, I'm going to say it like that. You had to work with the white man, work with the state government or one of the orders on the side, okay, like the clans, etc. Some of them work with them. Now, after him, you had Marcus Garvey. Next Jubilee, 1917, you had Marcus Garvey. Now, at that time, you had this Jubilee, Marcus Garvey, he came on the scene and he brought in this organization that wanted to get blacks into economics and wanted to bring get blacks to a territory, okay, like Liberia, etc. And he ended up falling with that because he had, some people say he had British intelligence working on his behalf because he lived in England over there for a period of time as well, back and forth, etc. Now, but we have to give credit. Marcus Garvey had one of the biggest movements in American history in the last, 100 years or so. So you got to see that. So Marcus Garvey did his thing, and he was building business. He brought black pride back in. But yeah, a lot of things was happening because of the fact that he was not we had not reached that other age as of yet. Now, after Marcus Garvey time, now in between time, you have a lot of people that branch from the Garveyism and stuff like that. Elijah Muhammad and some of the other ones. And I don't know if Drew Ali came before him, etc. But you had all these different people. Even you had certain fraternities, South Alpha Phi, whatever. Some of these fraternities grew up at that time so they could combat against what Marcus Garvey leadership was to the black church. And you need to see that. Then later on, from there, you had Martin Luther King. Now, Martin Luther King came to his realization of what he really seen back in 1967 He was talking about the poor people march. All before then, they was trying to lead him in a different direction. He had direct communication with the White House. So you always see something about intelligence is intervening with our black leadership. Okay, and even in certain things, you had dealing with Elijah Muhammad in between that Marcus Garvey time, etc. You got how they say some Klan involvement. Okay, now you got to know this and stuff, because this is showing you that we have had to move from the dark age to the light age. Even between Martin Luther King time and 2017, that next Jubilee, who do we have? We had different leaders. We had Jesse Jackson, we had Sharpton, we had Barack Obama, etc., and all of the above, and Stokely Carmichael and all the other people in between that time. And always it's something that deals with government involvement with these individuals. You got to do your homework to find out what these people are all about, and etc. Because they were still in the dark age. Now you got 2017. So who come on the scene 2017? Louis Jerome Armstrong on the scene. Now you got coming from this time in this other Jubilee. So what you're gonna do, Louis Jerome Armstrong? You're gonna get involved with the government, the CIA, the FBI, or you're gonna let the Lord handle these things so He can move you in that direction, and don't try to rush things and let it do what it's supposed to do. So you got to know that, because this is supposed to be a time of nationalism, and this is supposed to be a time that you get your land. Now, in between this time of Marcus Garvey and Dr. King, it was a time of nationalism, but nobody was really pushing to get the land. But they was, all on was pushing about business, etc. And you got to see that. Even after Martin Luther King time, when he said we need to cash our, go get our check, even after then.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
It's about business, but it wasn't about nationalism, so you could build your own business. Now, the scripture is telling you with Louis Jerome Armstrong, it's about nationalism, it's about having your own business, having your own things, land, all this that you're supposed to have, etc., etc. So this is where we at now, moving in this, and he's telling you about a judgment, and he's telling you about Bohemian East Wind, and he's telling you about an Exodus, and he's telling you about a territory that you're supposed to have. Come on, my people. Let's look at it. Now, let's deal with this here. We're dealing with the last part of this, and I got to cover this quick, so I ain't got but a few minutes. Sister Corinthia telling me I got to get it done now, because I've been pushing. What's that?
The verse.
Oh, the verse. Okay, I forgot. I got to cover the verse, then I go over there. Okay, Revelation 13, 4-5. And they worshiped the beast, they worshiped the dragon, who gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with the beast. And verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blaspheming, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. This is the judgment of America here. This is the judgment. America is that beast that it's talking about in Revelation. You had the dragon, Catholic Church, that brought in the doctrine of discovery, and then taxi off from that, the manifest destiny, with the American government of the system over here that's known as the beast, okay? They're raised up out of the earth, okay? Earth is known as Turtle Island, and we have to see this. Now, it tell you that 42 months, so you're talking about 42 years, of 360 days a year, times 42 equal 15,120 days. You divide 365.25 our days in there, and that give you 41.35 years. So you're talking about roughly 42. You know, you don't really round that off, but you can round it off. But it's talking about over 41 years, a little over 41 years. Now, you're going to see that same thing in Revelation. Okay, in Revelation 18:16, Revelation 18:16 and 18, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linens and pearl, and scarlet pearl, and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stone and pearls. In verse 17, for in 1 hour, okay, notice this now, because we're going to get into that same number count. For in 1 hour, great riches come to near, and every shipmaker and sailor and all as many as traded by sea stood afar off. In 1 hour. So you're talking about that 1 hour. Let's deal with that 1 hour. Because in 2 Peter 3-8, it tells you how to see that time. Okay. You're talking about 1,000 days. Okay, divided by 24. You got 24 hours in a day. That's going to give you 1.66 years. Now you see that again. Up here you see 41.39. Here you see 41.66. Round that off is 62. So we know that between 41 and 62 is this time. Right here, between 41 and 60, before being 41 and 42 is that time. Between 41 and 42 is that time. You see that same thing up there. And you see it in 1 Peter. You come up with this in 1 Peter 3:8. Now Revelation 14:1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion. Okay, Mount Zion. Okay, now this way in Revelation they got to spell S-I-O-N. In the Old Testament they got to spell Z-I-O-N. So you got to understand that it's talking about the same thing. So that's why I put the way that they got in the Old Testament, so you can see what it's really saying. And with him 144,000. Okay, and with him 144,000. Now, when you read that literally, you're going to think 144,000 people. It's very important to know what this 144,000 is, because it is a number. It is about some people, but it's about some peoples in the circumference of time. That's why I showed you the arcs that showed you the numbering of the stars over there, and it showed you 144,000 days. Now, these 144,000 is going to be a group of people that's going to be behind this Lamb or this Messiah, the Prince. And they're going to represent a time period. And that time period that they're going to represent is 144,000 days. Because it tells you that this person that's coming to be a deliverer, this person, Zion, Mount Zion and Jerusalem that's coming to be a deliverer, he have a group of peoples that God have called as well, a remnant. And the remnant is going to represent that next star count of 144,000. So, and there may be a possible chance that he may give each one of them that 1 year of that to say you representing that. Okay. So it is talking about 144,000, and at the same time, it ain't just talking about 144,000, but you got to understand that, and I'll get in there later to make that more plain for you, okay? Because you have to establish the priesthood and individuals in the priesthood. Now, let's get into this other part, Revelation 7:9. And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindred and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb clothed in white robe. Now, this is talking about the same people. So what it's talking about, 144,000, the individuals that's going to follow him and understand that circumference of time, because he's coming in that new age, that age of the from the paradigm shift. So you got to know what it's talking about. So those people that are following him are ones that understand that 144,000, and they participate in that 144,000, and they participate in bringing in this number that no man can number, because it said that the one that's Israel, Zion, and Jerusalem, and it tell you the remnant of the Lord. So you got to know that they are part of the remnant of the Lord, but they got a job to do, and they have to bring in a number that no man can number. They got to bring in all these people of all nations, all tongues, etc. So you got to see that. It's very important to know what's really going on. So it's not 144,000 people going to be saved. So you got to get off that or think that, because that's how they done told people in time past. And you need to see that. Okay, that's the end of this. We need our donations with our peoples, 100K, 10 peoples, okay? Some can bring in 10K, 7K, 5K, 3K, and others, okay? You can make your regular donation to Louis Armstrong Ministry at 7536 Jana Lane North, Jacksonville, Florida, 32210. Across Rock Incorporated at the same address, 7536 Jana Lane North, Jacksonville, Florida. Or you could go across Rock on GiveLify on your mobile app under charitable. That's GiveLify, Cross Rock, GiveLify mobile app under charitable. And you also go with PayPal. Go with PayPal, ArmstrongLewisJ at gmail.com. That's PayPal at ArmstrongLewisJ at gmail.com. Also, you could go with Cash App, $SWAU 1954. Cash App, $SWAU 1954. And we really appreciate your donations right now, because this is the first of the year. We need it now, okay? So thank you for everything that you have done in the past and everything that you will do. Now I'd like to say a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for our chosen people. Thank you for our audience. Thank you for permitting us to be in front of them and reveal these different revelations to them, and many more to come. Protect our peoples, Father. Don't let them worry about anything that they see on the news that's going to try to get them afraid of this or that. No, it's your time. It's your time. God want to take care of his people, and he's letting you know before time, so you'll know what's going on, so you will be prepared. God love you, my people. I love you. This organization loves you. Heavenly Father, thank you for your great people. Amen.